Thank you. Thank you. Welcome to the show. Welcome. You know, they say in business, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And I'm not sure I can completely agree with that statement, because as successful entrepreneurs, you have to know a lot of things and you have to hone your skills. But so many times in business, I do meet people, or I run across different business owners that have a great amount of skill sets. They've honed their craft. They have a great amount of tools in their toolbox. But because of that lack of alliances, or I should say proper alliances, they never bring their business or their success to the level they're wanting to achieve. And once in a while, I'll run across an entrepreneur that is so unique in business. I'm thinking in my mind, you know, I wish everybody knew this person. This is somebody that people need to know. And maybe we don't even know a person like this even exists in business. Tonight on the show, we're going to be talking with entrepreneur Gary Stepanian. And Gary's a dear friend of mine, and has helped us out a lot, not only with, we've done business together, but also with Tuesdays with Dan. Gary is a unique individual, and I'm going to let Gary tell you a little bit about what he does, but he's taken a small company single-handedly and turned it into $500 million in sales. In fact, averages about $150 million a year in sales. And I'm going to tell you how he does that. We're going to talk with him, and it's really going to shed a lot of light on what possibly is happening to our business right now. And we're also going to uncover who a real culprit is right now that might be stealing our business this side of the downturn. So stay with us. We have a great show tonight, and we'll be right back with Gary Stepanian. Welcome. Thank you. Welcome back. I wanted to take a second, first because I think Tuesdays with Dan has probably the best coffee on the planet. And we've had a really great couple, Dave and Becky Schultz, that have been so courteous to us by supplying the official Tuesdays with Dan coffee. So I wanted to take a minute to just have them come out here, give them a little recognition, and kind of learn a little bit about what's so unique about this. Give them a hand, Dave and Becky Schultz. How you doing, my man? Thank you so much. Thanks for coming. Now, you guys have been so gracious to me. I know that you guys supply us with the coffee. And this, I have to say, I've had kind of a love and hate relationship with coffee over the years, because I love good coffee, but I'm very prone to getting migraine headaches. And I've had, I probably get one every 3 or 4 months, but I drink 1 cup of coffee a day, but if I skip that cup, sometimes it'll send me into a migraine. And the other thing is, you know, I know that coffee dehydrates you. And so I run a little bit, and, you know, I'm always kind of on the verge of dehydration. So I'll go through periods of time where I'm a coffee drinker, and then I can't endure anymore, and I say I'm done with coffee, and then I'll go a couple of years. But I do love a good cup of coffee. And I have to say that I know that this coffee is pretty unique, and I haven't had any problems since we've been discussing it. But tell us a little bit about the main ingredient. I've been reading up on it, and is it
It's Ganoderma.
Ganoderma.
It's from the reishi mushroom in China. It's known as the king of herbs.
King of herbs.
It's been used in the Orient for over 4,000 years now. And our founder, Bernie Chua, has found a way to incorporate this Ganoderma into something that everybody drinks. You know, it's not like you have to take a pill,
right,
or a regimen of pills. Everybody drinks coffee or tea, yeah, or hot chocolate, and the Ganoderma is in there, and it's a healthy coffee.
Well, so many people look at success a different way. Most people, when you think of the word success, they associate that to monetarily. But I think success encompasses at least 5 things, and a huge part of it is, you know, family and taking care of yourself, and being healthy. And certainly this promotes that. But as a business point, you know, I didn't know this until we were talking earlier backstage, but coffee on the stock exchange, you know, out of everything traded, it's like the 2nd largest commodity
right behind
traded,
oil.
right behind oil. So you have oil and then coffee. It's number 2 out of everything. Right. That's absolutely amazing.
Well, there's something like 90 billion cups drank a day right here in the United States and Canada.
Yeah.
You know, it's an enormous thing. People will forego a lot of things, like you said, but they're going to have their morning coffee.
They're going to have it.
That's all there is to it.
If you want more information, you can also go to tuesdayswithdan.com, and we'll actually provide some information for you. But hey, guys, we really appreciate everything you've done with the show. And thank you so much. Keep us in good supply of this stuff, would you? It's really done well for us. Thank you so much, Dave and Becky Schultz. We'll be right back with Gary Stepanian. Thank you. Welcome back. My next guest is actually a very successful entrepreneur and author of a new book, Swimming with the Geeks. My great friend, Gary Stepanian. Give him a hand. Gary. Why are you dominating me, my friend? Good to see you. Now, Gary, at the opener of the show, I was telling people, once in a while you'll run across somebody where it's like, I never even knew a person like this existed. A guy, you mean a person actually does what this guy does. But those of you that don't know Gary, I used to hear that everybody would call him a geek. And back when I was in school, you know, if you call somebody a geek, them were fighting words. But I don't think Gary takes offense at it, but he's kind of known as like the king of the geeks. In fact, I even heard that they have a nickname for you around here.
Okay, what's that?
Which is actually called the Godfather of the Geeks. So you're kind of like the oldest geek on the planet, probably.
Now that is true.
But you actually are very up to date with technology, what's going on, and many people don't know about your success. But I'll tell you, I know that you've had you've done $500 million with a pretty small team, and you've stole major contracts from real major players. But for our viewers, there's so many people out there that really need to know a guy like you. Tell us real quick, just give us an example of what you do.
Well, someone came to me one time and they wanted to paint cars in a new way because the EPA required that the fan of paint had to get narrower so you didn't have the pollution. Well, when you narrowed the spray, the paint would begin to run. It's a big problem. Besides, paint's about $200 a gallon. So I came up with a closed-loop paint flow system with little computers, and it's used in every car plant. What I try to do...
Closed-loop
paint flow control.
Is that anything like a flux capacitor?
It's, well, what it is, what's so unique about it is, like your house, your thermostat controls the temperature based on what the air is blowing on it. But on a paint sprayer, you have no way to measure it because it goes out the tip. So that's really where the uniqueness. I try to find a problem, and then I try to find a solution that I can charge what it's worth, not what it costs.
Okay.
So if it solves a $2 million problem, I'm not going to sell it for $100 just because that's what it could cost. And I think that's a key part of my strategy, which is to think out of the box. And what I like to do is I like to go to trade shows. I like to let my customer tell me about his problem and just sit back and find out what kind of equipment they use, what they've had good success with and not. And then I zero in on a solution. I put $1 on it, and then I become a sole source supplier.
Right. And I know that you're not only a successful entrepreneur, but you're an inventor. You hold 5 patents.
Yes.
And so really, in my mind, the way that maybe I'm off base, but I feel like you're almost like a business broker. You'll go in, you'll perceive what problems are, you'll really hear the voice of the customers, which so many times big business doesn't hear. What's the word on the street? What's going on? What do you guys hate about this application or that? They'll tell you, and then you'll say, okay, who do I know, or how can I take a similar technology and adapt it into a whole new field where everybody else in that field is not competing for that market share?
A perfect example, Sears came to me. They wanted to put in Wi-Fi. This was back over 10 years ago. And they had a 3-month time window to put it in all the Sears stores. And immediately the problem, they weren't even thinking about the real problem. The problem was power. You couldn't go into a store and start running conduits around and without disrupting
with thousands of stores.
Yeah. So what I came up with was really the first version of power over Ethernet. And I actually got a $5 million order for power supplies instead of the $2 million order to do the installs.
Well, I know that you do work right now really all over the place. You got a lot of things going on. I know that you've been very involved with even trying to re-energize the Gulf Coast area with different
Absolutely.
educational pieces. But tell us a little bit about how you wound up in the Gulf Coast. You know, I'm from the LA area. I know that a lot of times when I meet people like you, you expect it in the LA or Northern Cal or New York or Chicago, but winding up in the Gulf Coast, was that the plan? Or?
Well, actually, I will say that living in Michigan all my life, around the Detroit area, in the automotive world, I thought that's all that was out there. But we always looked for a place to go south, but we didn't find anything that was really our liking. We tried Florida and North Carolina and some other places, and one day I get a call. I had done some voice over IP work for General Motors, and somebody heard about it down here, Larry Wehrman, who is I work for Carib.
Yeah, where we filmed. Beautiful Carib Resort, amazing place.
He called me up. I didn't know who he was. I was standing in a parking lot. We talked for about 45 minutes, and it basically came down to, Cisco wants $1 million. What can you do it for? And I said 150,000. So he says to me, "Can you come down here tomorrow morning?" Yeah. I go, "Okay." Well,
so I can challenge that because I don't believe, you know.
So I said, "Well, where are you?" He says, "We're down in Alabama on the coast." I said, "Well, Larry, I don't think Alabama is on the coast." He goes, "Yeah, it is." I came down here in late November, and everyone was boating, and I had already winterized. I hated winterizing. I called my wife. I said, "We're moving down here. I don't care what else we've got going. Move the kids, the family, the future husbands. They all moved down with us." And we really, now what I didn't understand was how complicated the hospitality technology business is. There's actually a show called High Tech. And for example, we had some new software that put our site online, and our business doubled, went from like 4 million to 8 million in just a year and a half.
Well, I know the hospitality industry as a whole, it's a huge industry. People don't realize the magnitude of the hospitality industry. We're going to take a quick break. I want to hear more about not only the hospitality industry and some of the things that you're working on, but I also know you have a new book coming out as well. We'll be right back, more with Gary Stepanian in a minute. Thank you. Thank you. I'm here with my dear friend, Gary Stepanian. Now, Gary, I wanted to talk to you a little bit. We were talking before the break about the hospitality industry, and I know that the magnitude of that is massive. In fact, I used to even have speakers come to me when I was on the road and saying, "Hey, man, we got to find a speaker that can tap into the hospitality industry because it's just so large." But let me ask you a question before we talk about that. I talked to many, many entrepreneurs, you know, post-reset, you know, we had the financial crisis in 08, and obviously there's many businesses that are still feeling legitimate effects from that. However, we were talking a little bit before backstage, and there's a lot of small business owners right now that still are in the mindset of, you know, this is a tough economy, or they might feel like certain things are out of their control. You know, I can't control the housing market if no one's buying houses. I can't control this, you know, the stock market or this or that. But there is a lot of industries to where it's really easy to use the economy as a scapegoat and say, maybe this is why my business isn't where it was pre-2008. But I actually feel like, and I know that we were talking, that maybe that's not the case, because in 2008, 2009, when we had the crisis, let's say in 08, the world changed so much so fast. The technology really changed. There were some really massive shifts in technology that changed. And because of technology shifting, entrepreneurs were going to have to do a real major shift as well. And a lot of people, they didn't do that. You know, they didn't keep up with the times. And now they're like, well, when's this recession going to be over? And instead of still feeling the direct effects of the recession, maybe they're losing business because they don't know that they have like this new enemy. You know, there's a person out there stealing their business they don't know about.
Well, first of all, the age change. You know, the world is by far a majority of 20-year-old people. 20-year-old people are very conversant with the technology.
Yes,
Take
sure. My nephew is like, let me show you
a
how to do this.
5-year-old that was at my house this weekend. They're sitting there, and they can tell you how to fix the games or the iPad or whatever it is they're using. They walk toward a computer and their arm goes out for the mouse. It's a mindset. Now, older business people, we're still using the yellow pages, you know, and,
you can find
and
one.
posters. And what's happening is people, for example, yes, you can go to yp.com, yellowpages.com, but it's much easier just to type it into Google, and you'll get the answer much faster. And it knows where you are, so it'll find you the closest one.
Right.
So things like that are changing the way people do it. And the facts are that about 70 to 80% of the people will go online before they buy something. I bought a GPS. I bought 3 different ones before I left the store. I took them back because I would go online and start reading about what people didn't like. I had to take that one back.
So you're actually in line to pay, and they'd be like, oh, that rating is not good.
If 80% of people shop online first and you're not online, you're not going to be getting any business.
Yep.
And it's true. Even restaurants and things that are kind of an impulse, or you see the sign, good food and so on. But it isn't like that anymore. People need the technology.
Well, I'll tell you, even personally, for the last 24 months, things have changed in my mind so much because, you know, a few years back, Facebook got really big, and during the financial crash, everybody was scrambling, and then I would know, you'd read about entrepreneurs that were really big on Facebook or LinkedIn, and everybody was kind of going that way, but it was more for the what we would think in our mind as the entrepreneurial. Okay, it's time for us to get with social media and get on those channels. But now you drive by a gas station, and it's like, check us out on Facebook. You know, look at us for this or that. Here's our specials. Go. You know, everybody is. It's a mindset, like you mentioned.
Yes.
And if we're not with that mindset,
we have digital signage that we have a company that we developed, and you can just take your phone and hold it in front of the TV, and it will get you linked up to join it.
You know, some people might be feeling a little bit intimidated of like, well, look, I am over 40 or I'm over 50 or, man, technology is not my world. And you either need to know somebody that is their world, and I've been fortunate enough to be in that situation. But what I found personally is it's not as daunting or intimidating as it seems. And the other thing is the old style of business I'm used to, of going out and meeting people with meetup groups or, you know, networking groups and shaking hands and business cards and getting in that grind, that was much tougher than it is today. Today, we can actually do a little bit of social media, and I can get thousands of leads or appointments in the same efforts that used to have me going out one night for a social networking mixer. So it actually is easier once we make the switch.
The competition, though, for email and for everything is overload. And that's the trick. It's the people that have figured out how to get the attention of the technology without, you know, becoming one of thousands of unread emails, for example. And in my new book, Swimming with the Geeks, the whole idea of that book is that if you have 5% special sauce, you can get 100% of the business. If, for example,
sure.
If you have a certain, I had a benefit with General Motors. How did I get sole sourced on a $100 million job? Because somebody told me about a product. I did some research, found out people didn't like it because they didn't know how to use it, invented a little solution, and I sold General Motors on it, and I was the only one who could sell it to them.
Yeah.
And so it was a beautiful thing. Every month, 3 plants, $3 million a plant.
Yeah.
And I saved them $40 million in the process. So I used the Michael Jackson principle. If he sings the record one time and then he sells 1 million copies, right? So if you think of a great idea and you figure that you're solving a solution, a problem that needs a solution, I should say, then people will replicate it. They'll roll it out, and that's where the money's to be made. It's a simple thing like apps. You know, I have an app on my phone for audio spectrum analyzer. That used to cost $2,000. Then it was $300. I thought, wow, that's a bargain. Now I have a $6 app that does exactly the same thing on my phone.
Right.
And I always have it with me.
So fast, yeah.
It's just it's an important thing.
Swimming with the Geeks, you mentioned it real quick. When are we looking for that to come out? Because I always feel like every time I talk to you, I could sit here for hours, and there's so much stuff that people need to get. But when do you expect the book?
I would say by the end of the year.
End of the year, we're looking for that. And how can people get a hold of you, Gary?
Well, I'm going to have a website called swimmingwiththegeeks.com.
Okay.
And currently right now I'm at Carib Resort.
Carib Resort.
So they can contact me there.
Well, I know Larry Wireman, you guys work well together. He's been so gracious to the show, and we're so privileged to film out of Korea.
I do want to talk about, real quick, if we get a second, about the virtual video store. This is a patent that I've been working on since 2007. And it's kind of positioned between Netflix and Redbox. You know, you go to Redbox, you have to go there. You have to take it back, pick it up. And they have a limited supply because it's in there. And then you go to Netflix, and you can't really get the latest, greatest, okay? Now, if you go to Vudu and some of the other ones, you pay $6. So there's a problem there. But think about the old days when you used to go to the Blockbuster, and you would rent the movie, right? If they didn't have it, what did you do? You asked when it was going to come back. So the whole concept is, it's astounding. It took a long time to get patented, but it's going to allow you to have pay one price, watch as much as you want. If the video's not available, you'll be able to find out when it will be, and it will be in the next, like in minutes. And then you'll be able to, and if you don't like it, X out, get another one. You'll be able to use it on your mobile phones, and you'll be able to use it on your computers, your television sets, and your hotel rooms. No more $16 movies.
Yeah.
So we're pretty excited about it.
Real quick, let me ask you one final question. Technology has gone kind of full circle. We've gotten into, and I know you've been intricate in robots, and the robots got the robots. They don't need any time off. They don't get sick. But where do you think it's all going to go?
Well, I think a lot of people are investing in education. And of course, I believe in education, but I believe that it should be targeted education. There's a new phenomenon, probably heard it on NPR this week, about the MOTS, the massive online training seminars. 100,000 people in one class, one professor. And of course, he's making a killing. But the amazing thing is that there's 100,000 people, maybe 40,000 of them are learning a skill that they can go. Companies like Google are hiring the certificate holders of these courses. So we really have to address this problem. Someone told me the other day that it's a life tax. A student loan is a life tax. You just pay it every month. I don't believe that. I believe we're going to have to get smart. We're going to have to, people today that don't learn how to do diagnostics, I always put my head inside the device. What would, if I were a computer and I was broke, what would I do? What would cause that? People don't have
the mindset
skills.
of the computer. If I was a computer, yeah, what would I do?
Two simple skill sets. You have signal tracing and signal substitution. That's the basis. We used to fix TVs all day long. Nobody knows what that is anymore.
Yeah.
And I just have to, and then they'll be so proud when they fix something by just tracing through it or injecting a signal. And it's a simple thing.
Almost going back to basics, but using it for new applications.
That's right.
That's great. Well, Gary, I could talk to you all day. Swimming with the Geeks, it'll be out at the end of the year. Look for it. And Gary, we'd love to have you back on the show anytime. You're such an amazing guy.
By the way, the handshake, just so everyone knows, Dan taught me this handshake, and if you do it Dan's way, he has to listen to me. So I've learned that.
Which means he's going to hit me up for something after the show. Guys, that's our show. Thank you very much for tuning in. Don't forget to get involved in your local community and be forgiving of others. Good night, everybody. Hi, I'm Dan Vega, and thank you for watching our channel. I want to take a second to tell you about a resource that's helping thousands of people across the country, BLU University. BLU University is the premier online business school for entrepreneurs and business leaders. You know, if you find yourself in a day-to-day grind where you've lost your joy or you're just tired of struggling, then check out BLU.University. That's BLU.University. I can promise that you receive nothing short of a multi-million-dollar education. And if you want a completely different life in 3 to 6 months and a way to create wealth in 5 years or less, then again, check it out. That's BLU.University. Find out why blue is the new color of success. Also, make sure to subscribe to this channel or to give us a good rating, but that's only if you see value. And when you do receive value, make sure to share it with someone else. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.